Story 1 of 8. 5-year-old Kumanjayi Little Baby's abduction, murder and aftermath in Alice Springs, NT. 5-year-old Kumanjayi Little Baby's abduction, murder and aftermath in Alice Springs, NT. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Kumanjayi Little Baby, a 5-year-old Walpiri girl, was last seen alive at old-timers Isla Bell town camp in Alice Springs on April 25, 2026 at 11:30 p.m. Her body was found approximately 5 kilometres south of old-timers town camp near the Todd River on April 30th, 2026, around midday. Jefferson Lewis, 47, was arrested on April 30th, 2026 and charged with Kumanjayi Little Baby's murder and 2 other offences, including sexual assault, on May 1st, 2026. Lewis was beaten unconscious by a mob before his arrest at Charles Creek Town Camp on April 30th, 2026. Violent riots erupted outside Alice Springs Hospital on April 30th, 2026, after Lewis's arrest, involving tear gas, rubber bullets and property damage. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian and ABC report that Kumanjayi Little Baby had been the subject of 6 child protection notifications. But the NT Child Protection Minister initially said there was nothing to see here before requesting a briefing. The ABC and Guardian report that Lewis was charged with murder and 2 counts of sexual assault, but the specific details of the second charge are not disclosed in all sources. The Guardian and ABC report that Lewis was beaten unconscious by a mob before his arrest, but the exact number of people involved in the beating varies between sources. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, news.com.au, SBS News, Sydney Morning Herald and The Age.
Story 2 of 8. Australia's 2026 federal budget focuses on housing tax reforms, intergenerational equity, and economic challenges. Australia's 2026 federal budget focuses on housing tax reforms, intergenerational equity, and economic challenges. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Jim Chalmers will deliver the 2026 federal budget on May 12, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. AEST, marking his 5th and most consequential budget as Treasurer. The budget will include changes to negative gearing, capital gains tax, CGT, and discretionary trusts, despite pre-election promises not to alter the first 2. Negative gearing will be restricted to newly built homes only, with existing properties grandfathered under current rules. The capital gains tax discount will likely revert to the pre-1999 inflation-adjusted model, replacing the current 50% flat discount. The budget will include a $10 billion fuel security package to increase Australia's fuel reserves to 50 days' supply, with $3.2 billion for onshore reserves and $7.5 billion for financial support. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian and ABC report that the budget will include a $10 billion fuel security package, but The Age and SMH only mention a $10 billion package without specifying the breakdown of $7.5 billion for financial support and $3.2 billion for onshore reserves. The Guardian and ABC report that the budget will include a $3.8 billion boost for Melbourne's suburban rail loop project, bringing total federal funding to $6 billion. But The Age and SMH only mention the $3.8 billion boost without specifying the total funding amount. The Guardian and ABC report that the budget will include a $1.8 billion investment in Medicare urgent care clinics over 5 years, but news.com.au reports a $1.8 billion investment over 5 years from 2025-26 and $525.6 million ongoing from 2030 to 31. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, news.com.au, Sydney Morning Herald and The Age.
Story 3 of 8. UK PM Keir Starmer faces resignation calls after poor election results. UK PM Keir Starmer faces resignation calls after poor election results. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Over 70 Labor MPs have publicly called for Keir Starmer's resignation as of May 12, 2026. 6 ministerial aides have resigned, including Tom Rutland, Environment Minister's aide, and Joe Morris, Health Secretary Wes Streeting's aide. Labor lost 20% of the vote in local elections held on May 2, 2026, with Reform UK winning the most seats. Labor lost control of the Welsh Parliament for the first time since its establishment in 1999. Keir Starmer gave a speech on May 11, 2026, vowing to prove his doubters wrong and promising a bigger response to economic and political challenges. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1, SBS, states, over 70 MPs back his removal, while Article 4, ABC, initially mentions at least 50 MPs, before later sources confirm over 70. Article 4, ABC, mentions 4 government aides resigned, while Article 6, Newscomau, lists 4 ministerial aides, but does not specify if they are the same individuals. Article 2, ABC, and Article 3, ABC, both mention 6 ministerial aides resigned, but Article 6, Newscomau, and Article 8, Guardian, mention 4 ministerial aides resigned, creating ambiguity on the exact number. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, news.com.au, and SBS News.
Story 4 of 8. Charges dropped against man accused of killing Melbourne teen Isla Bell. New perverting justice charges filed. Charges dropped against man accused of killing Melbourne teen Isla Bell. New perverting justice charges filed. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Marat Ganiev, 55, was originally charged with murder of Isla Bell, 19, in October 2024. Isla Bell's remains were found at a rubbish tip in Melbourne's southeast Dandenong Tip on November 20th, 2024, 6 weeks after her disappearance. Ganiev was accused of hiding Bell's body in a fridge, which was later moved around Melbourne's southeast before being discarded. Prosecutors withdrew both murder and manslaughter charges against Ganiev on May 12, 2026, citing insufficient evidence. Ayel Yaffa, 59, was originally charged with assisting an offender and attempting to pervert the course of justice. All charges were discontinued. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states the manslaughter charge was downgraded from murder as the case entered the Supreme Court, while the ABC does not explicitly mention this downgrade timeline. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 5 of 8. ANU governance crisis, resignations, regulatory interference and leadership turmoil. ANU governance crisis, resignations, regulatory interference and leadership turmoil. Here's what every outlet agrees on. 4 ANU council members, Tanya Hosh, Wayne Martin, Padma Raman and Rob Whitfield, resigned on May 12, 2026, following Julie Bishop's resignation as Chancellor. Julie Bishop resigned as ANU Chancellor on May 9, 2026, citing unprecedented and coordinated interference by the higher education regulator. The ANU Council consists of 15 members, the Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, 7 members appointed by Education Minister Jason Clare, and 6 elected members representing staff and students. Alison Kitchen resigned from the ANU Council on April 25, 2026, and was replaced by Larry Marshall, a Bishop loyalist. University Secretary Philip Tweedy resigned on May 5, 2026, amid governance chaos at ANU, but not all outlets told the same story. The SMH states that the resignations occurred after council members were given access to a confidential report on May 11, 2026. While the ABC does not mention this timeline or report, the SMH claims that the resignations left only 2 of the 7 ministerially appointed members remaining, Marshall and Metcalfe, but the ABC does not explicitly confirm this count. This story was covered by ABC News and Sydney Morning Herald.
Story 6 of 8. Canberra teen charged with planning terrorist attack linked to extremist material. Canberra teen charged with planning terrorist attack linked to extremist material. Here's what every outlet agrees on. A 17-year-old Canberra teenager was arrested on 5th of November 2025 and charged with planning a terrorist attack in the ACT, making him the first person charged with such an offence in the territory. The teenager was charged with 1 count of planning or preparing for a terrorist act, maximum penalty, life imprisonment, and 1 count of transmitting violent extremist material, maximum penalty, 5 years imprisonment. The charges were brought by the ACT Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, JCTT, comprising the Australian Federal Police, AFP, ACT Policing, and ASIO. The teenager appeared in the ACT Children's Court on the 12 May 2026 to face the additional charges, having been remanded in custody since his arrest. Police allege the teenager was motivated by nationalist and racist extremist views and was planning an attack on strangers, but not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian article states the teenager was charged with additional terrorism offences on 12 May 2026, while the ABC article does not explicitly mention additional charges, but confirms the new charges were brought in the same court appearance. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 7 of 8. Victorian coroner's inquest examines gambling addiction and suicide of Kyle Hudson. Victorian coroner's inquest examines gambling addiction and suicide of Kyle Hudson. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Kyle Hudson died by suicide on July 6, 2021, at age 22 in Werribee, Melbourne's Outer West. Hudson deposited over $406,000, the age, $47,000 net loss, Guardian, into betting companies between 2017 and 2021, with total turnover of $895,233. Hudson placed 999 bets in the first 6 months of his Sportsbet account, 2017, averaging $107 per bet. Sportsbet triggered internal behavioural alerts for Hudson 37 times via deposits over $3,000 in a rolling week, mostly due to his age, under 22. Hudson's girlfriend Ashley Baker testified that his gambling was the only major conflict in their 7-year relationship. But not all outlets told the same story. The Age states Hudson's total deposits were over $406,000, while The Guardian reports his total turnover was $895,733, net loss $47,000. The discrepancy in figures is unresolved. The Age claims Hudson's losses were almost $48,000, but The Guardian does not specify a net loss figure matching this exact amount. The Guardian notes Sportsbet's emails were almost identical and lacked specific details, while The Age emphasises the lack of call recordings for deeper context. This story was covered by The Guardian and The Age.
Story 8 of 8. Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price delivers emotional Senate speech on niece's murder in Alice Springs. Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price delivers emotional Senate speech on niece's murder in Alice Springs. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price broke down during a condolence motion in the Federal Senate on 12 May 2026. The condolence motion was for Kumanjayi Little Baby, a 5-year-old Walpiri girl allegedly abducted and murdered in Alice Springs. Price stated her niece's life was taken senselessly, selfishly, and horrifically. The alleged murder occurred near Old Timers or Isla Bell town camp on the outskirts of Alice Springs. The body was found on 30 April 2026 after a 5-day search. But not all outlets told the same story. No contradictions found between the two sources on core factual claims. This story was covered by The Guardian and news.com.au.